When we think of ancient civilizations, we usually talk about their temples, warriors, and social hierarchies. But what if I told you that one of the most important aspects of ancient life has to do with alcohol? The brews back then weren't just beverages. They were currency, medicine, and the glue that held many societies together. I'm Mike with List 25, and today we're exploring 25 mind-blowing brews that defined ancient civilizations. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It truly helps the channel grow. That being said, let's go. 25. Sumerian Beer. The Sumerians knew what they were doing when they began brewing beer around 4000 BCE. Their ancient drink was made from barley and was the cornerstone of daily life in ancient Sumer. People of all ages and from all social classes drank it regularly, since it not only provided the gentle buzz, but also essential nutrients. This beer wasn't just for enjoyment either. It also functioned as currency. Laborers would often be paid in beer rations. Yes, beer was held to the same standard as other currencies at the time, and people were happy to exchange the brew for a hard day's work. These folks took beer so seriously that it held religious significance and was a key component in communal celebrations and rituals. They loved this drink so much they even dedicated it to Ninkasi, the goddess of brewing. 24. Heqet Beer. Ancient Egyptians took their beer seriously as well. They were especially keen on keeping it sacred during religious ceremonies. So much so, they even had a brew named after the Egyptian frog goddess of fertility, Heqet. It was crafted for sacred purposes and reserved for ceremonial offerings during rituals meant to invoke divine favor, abundance, and fertility. This wasn't one you'd casually drink. It was reserved for the most important and holy of moments. Heqet beer became an element of spiritual practice. Offering a goblet to the frog goddess herself was associated with renewal and childbirth, and was thought to bring blessings from the divine realm. 23. Lotus Wine. One of the most interesting brews in history is Lotus Wine. This drink was loved by many, and not just for its sweet and aromatic flavor, but also for its mild euphoric or even hallucinogenic effect. This wasn't your everyday brew. It was saved for special occasions and religious ceremonies that required an altered state of consciousness to reach spiritual enlightenment. The psychoactive properties of Lotus Wine help the ancient folks connect with the divine and are thought to have helped the drinker achieve mystical states of mind. It was treated as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. Historians have long debated whether or not this drink was truly hallucinogenic or simply deeply relaxing due to the higher than average alcohol content. Either way, it's cemented its place in history. 22. Mead from Mulberries. Mead is one of the most common drinks of ancient cultures, and one that was made using honey and mulberries took it to a whole new level. This luxurious variant was reserved for royalty and very special occasions. Known as melemel, it was created by fermenting honey, mulberry fruit, water, and yeast. The berries added a distinct sweet but tart flavor and rich color that truly set it apart. Even the process of making this delicious drink was time-consuming and a whole event on its own. They fermented it with yeast and racked it to the secondary fermentaries to age and clarify the beverage. The result was a brew that was complex, delicious, and prized by nobility. While generic everyday mead was enjoyed by even the poorest of the poor, this concoction was a status symbol for the rich and powerful. 21. Cacao Wine. Long before chocolate became one of the most beloved treats around the world, the people of the ancient Americas used cacao for wine. This practice dates back to 1400 BCE in Honduras, where they fermented cacao into a delightful brew. Interestingly, this wasn't made using the beans. Instead, it used the sweet pulp surrounding them to create a mildly alcoholic drink that was both intoxicating and deliciously refreshing. Cacao wine was likely consumed every day and during ritual settings. It served as an important beverage long before people ever thought to roast and grind the beans into chocolate. In fact, cacao wine predates the candy by centuries. 20. Kassite Honey Beer. The Kassite dynasty took brewing during the Babylonian Age to a whole new level by introducing honey to their concoctions. They created a deeply rich beer that was more aromatic than standard barley beer by using honey not just for sweetness, but as a symbol of divine blessing, fertility, and abundance. This drink brought them close to the spiritual world and was truly a religious symbol, though it wasn't for everyone. Kassite honey beer was reserved for the truly elite and consumed during the holiest of ceremonies and important gatherings. You had to be someone held in high regard to be handed a goblet of this sweet drink. It reflected wealth, culture, and sophistication. The Kassite dynasty enjoyed this luxury during one of the world's most important historical civilizations. 19. Wines of the Scorpion King. One of the earliest known Egyptian rulers was King Scorpion I. He held the throne around 3150 BCE during the pre-dynastic period. Not only is he famous for being one of the first kings, but he's also famous in the archaeological world for what was found in his tomb when it was unearthed. When researchers opened his resting place at Abydos, they discovered jars containing the residues of important grape wines. It's some of the oldest known wine in Egyptian history. What makes it more interesting is that the wines were sent from the Levant, which proves just how strong Egypt's trade networks ran at the time. The Scorpion King's wines in his tomb were not just about sending him drinks into the afterlife, they were a status symbol of his power, wealth, and access to luxury. It showed the world, and the gods, that he was someone of extreme importance. 18. Ancient Antibiotic Beer. Using beer as medicine came into fashion in Nubia around 350 to 500 CE. According to researchers who studied ancient skeletons from the region, their bones were embedded with traces of the powerful antibiotic tetracycline, and it is thought this happened due to a happy microbial accident during the fermentation process. The source of this medical marvel was Streptomyces, a soil bacterium that thrived in the vats. The brew itself is thought to be much thicker than other brews, with a texture closer to liquid bread than the modern beer we have today. It probably wasn't very pleasant to drink, but it was effective. It was thought that adults and children drank it regularly, and this daily dose of medicine helped them fight inflammation and infections. Many researchers believe Nubian brewers learned to encourage the growth of these microbes through trial and error. What makes this even more interesting is it took over 1,000 years for modern medicine to catch up and rediscover the same medical compounds. The Nubian people were truly ahead of their time. 17. Teotihuacan Nutrient Boost. We're now stepping back into the prime of Teotihuacan during 200 to 550, long before the metropolis was considered part of Mexico. The people of the times came up with a brew so ingenious, it actually kept them alive and healthy. This was discovered in 2014, when archaeologists came across pottery shards stained with the remnants of a mysterious milky beverage. As it turns out, the vessels once held pulque, a frothy alcoholic drink made from fermented agave sap that also contained a vast amount of nutrients. Researchers believe pulque wasn't just a party drink. It was an essential source of vitamins, calories from food shortages, and minerals, and saved the people of the land from starving. It's thought to be the equivalent of meal replacement. This drink was life-saving and revered all around the city. So much so, researchers found murals from the city showing residents raising their glasses of pulque, seemingly toasting to its benefits. 16. Zagros Mountain Ale. The people of Tepe in the Zagros Mountains were also big on creating brews way back in 3500 BCE. Their drink of choice was barley beer. The Sumerians were all about perfecting their process to the point where it was a way of life. It was safer than water and more nutritious. And it wasn't a luxury like in other civilizations. Beer was for the average person, and it fueled everyone from soldiers to merchants. In 1992, archaeologists found centuries-old jars containing leftovers of the world's oldest barley beer, and artwork showing people gathered around bowls sipping it through long straws. Beer was more than just to quench thirst. It provided a social connection and brought the Sumerian people together. 15. Oldest European wine. Long before Italian wineries and French vineyards, the ancient Greeks in Tepache were perfecting the art of making wine. In 2013, archaeologists researching the region believe they discovered Europe's oldest wine. It was found in an ancient pot in the prehistoric town. The residue inside the jars contained tartaric acid, which is a byproduct of grape fermentation. The remains are around 6,200 years old and prove the Greek people were drinking wine around 4200 BCE. While the history of the people in the area remains a mystery, grapes and wine were clearly important to their society. Not only did they find traces of wine, but they also discovered burnt grape seeds and skins from that era near a Neolithic dwelling. 14. Scandinavian Spirits. Another interesting find from Europe was the discovery of a 3,500-year-old woman who was buried with a bronze strainer that was used for pouring alcohol. Archaeologists in Scandinavia unearthed the body, and their chemical analysis showed her drink was a mix containing imported wine, cranberries, honey, barley, and herbs. This was quite a complex recipe that helped confirm mead was popular in the region. This led to scientists re-examining other ancient Scandinavian sites in search of more ancient brews. Their work paid off when they found the first evidence of alcohol in a jar in a warrior's tomb, and later the discovery of the Heqet girl, who was buried with a container of grog at her feet. 13. Iron Age Brew. One of the most interesting finds happened in Swabia, Germany, when researchers and archaeologists uncovered a bronze cauldron that once held a 2,500-year-old brew. The pot was so large it could hold up to 14 liters of liquid, and held such a level of importance that it was buried alongside iron spears, a helmet, and a sword in an Iron Age warrior's tomb. Scientists believed it was left there as a way to help the dead prove their loyalty and worth to the gods. Chemical analysis of the cauldron showed trace residue of the recipe. It contained barley, yeast, honey, mint, and meadowsweet. This was so intriguing that Lakefront Brewery in Milwaukee invited scientists in their brewery to try and recreate the ancient drink. Their version had about 8% alcohol, and is said to taste much like a dry port wine. Unfortunately, it didn't exactly impress today's consumers. 12. Canaanite Wine Cellar. A massive discovery was made in 2013 in Tel Kabri in present-day Israel that proved wine cellars are not a modern invention. Archaeologists found the 3,700-year-old room from the Middle Bronze Age that held roughly 40 large jars that were able to hold 50 liters of wine each. Testing shows these wines were made from juniper berries, cedar resin, and honey, along with herbs and spices. The cellar showed the Canaanite peoples were highly skilled at making and preserving wine, and the vast size of the cellar suggests it was owned by someone immensely wealthy, and that wine wasn't just for everyday drinking. It's believed it was used to mark religious ceremonies, important meetings, and special events. It was a luxury good that marked great status in ancient society. 11. Ancient China, Jiahu. The oldest known alcoholic beverage in the world was created in Jiahu, a village in China's Henan province. This drink dates back to 7,000 BCE. The people were brewing a special blend of rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn fruit as far back as 9,000 years ago. Archaeologists discovered ancient pottery jars used to ferment the creation, which is the oldest known evidence of alcohol production in history. It's thought that the people of the time didn't just drink to relax, but they used it to help them reach the spirit world and communicate with gods and ancestors during rituals and ceremonies. The tradition of fermentation in China would influence centuries of brewing to come. 10. Hajji Firuz Tepe Wine. It seems beer wasn't the only thing the villagers were brewing. The people of Hajji Firuz Tepe were also making wine around 7,000 years ago. Like many ancient cultures, they also stored their creations in ceramic jars inside their homes. Archaeologists found containers with clear signs of fermentation production from grapes and resin from the terebinth tree. The resin wasn't just for taste. It was thought to be used to keep the wine from spoiling. 6 large jars were found together in one location, suggesting wine was made right in the home and shared with family during gatherings. Winemaking was a part of daily life in a Neolithic village, long before famous civilizations like Mesopotamia and Egypt appeared. Hajji Firuz Tepe gives us an interesting glimpse into some of the earliest traditions of wine and how it was used to create community. 9. Scythian Hemp Ale. Another shocking find to come out of Asia is linked back to the Scythians. They didn't just drink, they also used cannabis. And they didn't just smoke it, they infused their drinks with it. This created one of the most psychoactive drinks of the time, known as Scythian Hemp Ale. Historical records from the Herodotus period describe Scythians as huge fans of the hemp plant, who would often be found using it for all sorts of mental escape. So much so, researchers have found hemp seeds, braziers, and drinking vessels in burial mounds. The hemp ale wasn't just a good time, though. It played a role in feasts, rituals, and even funerals. It would help the drinker reach a trance-like state and connect them with their ancestors in the spiritual world. The combination of cannabis and alcohol was powerful and gave ceremonies a unique edge in warrior culture. 8. Pacific Kava. To this day, kava is still a traditional drink in the South Pacific. Islanders have been enjoying it for over 1,000 years. Made by fermenting grains or fruit, the result is an earthy, muddy-looking brew that isn't alcoholic but does contain kavalactones, which can help relax the body and calm the mind. It may not get you drunk, but it does help people feel at peace and at ease. Throughout Vanuatu, Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji, kava has played a key role in social and political life. It's served during meetings between chiefs, at important events, and for religious ceremonies. Sharing a bowl is a sign of respect, unity, and friendship. It's meant to help people connect in this world and in the spiritual realm as well. 7. Amazonian Cauim. This brew wasn't produced with barley or wheat like their European and South American counterparts. It was created in the depths of the Amazon using local plants such as sweet potatoes, maize, and cassava. What makes it extra special is the unique way it was made. Women in the village would chew the cassava or maize and spit the pulp into a communal pot. The enzymes in their saliva help break down starches and turn them into sugar, which made fermentation possible. After the mash was mixed with water, it was left to ferment, and it turned into a sour, low-alcohol drink. Cauim was part of the social and ceremonial life, and sharing the drink brought people together, and the preparation was a skill passed down through generations. 6. Aryan Barley Ale. One of the earliest known beers brewed by the Indo-Iranian people is Aryan Barley Ale. It was shortly after folks migrated to Iran and northern India around the 2nd millennium BCE. They used barley to create the beer since it grew rather well in the harsh climate. It was more than just a drink. This nutritious, thick ale played an important role in the culture as well as the spiritual life. Finds from archaeological digs from ancient sites in Turkmenistan unearthed evidence that the beer was flavored with honey, resins, and herbs. This drink is thought to be an everyday enjoyment. It was consumed during everything, from large feasts to small social gatherings. It brought people together and served as a communal beverage for everyone to partake in. 5. Haoma. Haoma is one of the most sacred drinks in ancient Persian Zoroastrianism. It was so revered and popular that it was even personified as a deity that granted vitality, health, and even spiritual powers to those who consumed it. At the time, it was deemed the elixir of life and was central to the region's worship and sacrifice. It held ties to the prophet of Zoroaster himself, and scholars have long researched its connection in the culture to the spiritual realm. What we don't know is how it was made, or what plant it was made from. To this day, the plant that helped create this brew remains a mystery. 4. Chicha de Jora. Another sacred brew comes from the Inca Empire. Chicha de Jora is a corn beer that was consumed by nobility and saved for celebrations and rituals. Making this ancient Andean beer was a long and labor-intensive process that took several days. Corn was germinated into malted corn called jora, then ground, boiled, and fermented. The wait was worth it, though. It was tangy, earthy, and sweet. This brew held deep religious significance in Inca society, especially after the Spanish conquest arrived. The Spaniards tried to suppress this traditional drink, but the Inca carried on to make sure Chicha de Jora survived. Even today, the brew is enjoyed across the Andes. It's sold in stores and even out of homes. 3. Balché. Speaking of sacred drinks, Balché held high significance in the ancient Maya culture. Made by fermenting honey with lilac tree bark, its unique properties were valued by the Maya people and used for spiritual purposes. The bark gave this drink distinctive qualities that made it perfect for rituals. This is a mildly intoxicating ale that was consumed during religious observations. It played a significant and important role in spirituality throughout Mexico and Central America. The combination of honey and bark was thought to connect the Maya to their ancestors and gods during moments of observation. Like Chicha, it survived thousands of years. The Maya beverage is still made and consumed by communities to this day. 2. Tepache. Tepache is a traditional Mexican drink that has pre-Columbian origins. The name comes from the Nahuatl word tepiatl, meaning drink made from corn, which is exactly what the original version was. Tepache was a favorite among Aztecs and was so popular that it's also endured the test of time. Today's version is quite different from its early days. Now it uses pineapple as its primary ingredient. It's fermented with wild yeast and bacteria, with brewers adding spices like cinnamon for a richer flavor. It's a moderately alcoholic and lightly effervescent drink that's sweet, refreshing, and loved by many. While modern tepache is what most people know nowadays, it's still brewed from corn or pineapple rinds by some who prefer to keep it closer to its ancient roots to keep the connection to the Mesoamerican past. 1. Gaulish Barley Beer. Our final mind-blowing brew is all about the Celtic tribes of ancient Gaul. Gaulish barley beer was the drink that fueled their warriors and communities across what's now France and other parts of Europe. Made from hulled barley and flavored with local vegetation like carrot seeds and mugwort, it was dark, sour, and smoky. The brewing process involved soaking, drying, and storing sprouted grains in man-made ditches. It was drunk through straws to filter out sediments and grain particles that sank to the bottom of the cup. The beer was enjoyed by nearly every Celtic, but the elites preferred barley or wheat-based ales. Nevertheless, this homegrown barley beer was the drink of choice for generations. And there you have it. From beer that paid wages to wines that were so good they were concocted to gods, brews have played a bigger role in history than most of us realized. Which drink would you try if it could be recreated today? Which sounds the tastiest, and which ones would you completely avoid? And if you enjoy this walk through the world of ancient drinks, well, you'll love our video 25 ancient technologies from vanished empires you won't believe. I'll link it in the description below, and it should pop up here any second now. But before you go, let's test your knowledge with some fun trivia. In ancient Rome, what food was so valuable that it was sometimes used as currency and even given to soldiers as part of their pay? Was it A, olive oil, B, salt, C, honey, or D, wheat grain? Make sure to pop your answers in those comments to see who got it right. Now remember, friends, no Googling. That's cheating. And that's it for today. So again, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.